The importance of what I want. I'm not prepared for this one. I knew that I wanted to make a video on the importance of what I want, but I didn't have anything thought out in advance, so I'm totally winging this one. I know I say this 100 times, but even usually, even if I just pick a topic and run with it, I've at least thought it out somewhat in advance. I don't necessarily plan it. Like, I'm not thinking, well, this is what I'll say here and there, but it's more like something that I've just thought on, in the past. It's been on my mind so many times that I already have like certain ideas worked out that I can just go and kind of talk on it without any kind of preparation. Though I do forget things, but in this case, I haven't really done a whole lot of that. I have read a little bit about it in a book called not just Mastery Through Accomplishment is what it's called. Mastery Through Accomplishment. It was written by a Sufi teacher named Pir Hazrat Inayat Khan. Pir is not a name. I think Pir is a title. I think Hazrat also is a kind of formal kind of term. So I think it means something like sir. I forget what Pir means. I think so. It's something like teacher, sir. Inayat Khan is the guy's name. Something like that. Sir, teacher, Inayat Khan. If you put the Hazrat in front of the Pir. Hi. So, but this is a book that was for me a kind of slap in the face, not in the sense of being insulting, but in the sense of like, wake up, you know, which I think a lot of times that's what people mean by a slap in the face. I think it could mean both, right? It's both insulting, but it's also an awakening kind of thing. Because I had studied religion for years, and one of the things that comes up a lot in religions is this idea that desire is bad. To want things is bad. The Buddhists, there are different translations of it. The Buddha, when he taught, actually I don't know what language he spoke, if he even existed, but the teachings that are written down that are attributed to the Buddha in the original language are written in Sanskrit. So, but there's a line that's sometimes translated as desire is the cause of suffering. Like the very first line is all life is suffering. I believe, is that the first line? I think there's like what they call the Four Noble Truths. So I think the first line is all life is suffering. I think the second noble truth is that there is a cause of suffering. I could be wrong about that. But one of those, it's either the second or third, is that desire is the cause of suffering. I think the fourth is that the way to end suffering is by following the Eightfold Path, right? And the Eightfold Path is doing the right thing, performing the right actions. That's basically doing everything right. But it is translated other ways. I think some people translate it as attachment. Some people translate it as craving is the cause of suffering. But also in the Tao Te Ching, which is a Chinese philosophy book, the Buddha wasn't Chinese. The Buddha was from India. People might associate Buddhism with China, but the Buddha himself was from India. But there is a Chinese philosophy book that says that without desire, one sees with being filled with desire, one only sees the manifestation, but without desire, one sees the mystery, which is another way of saying you're enlightened, right? You see kind of beneath the surface of things. If you're filled with desire, you see only the surface. But if you have no desire, then you see below the surface, right? You see the ultimate reality beneath all things, right? So there you have two major religions, right? Because the Tao Te Ching is the kind of the Bible of Taoism, which is one of the three major religions of China. Buddhism is the other one, or another one, and then Confucianism is another one. I don't know what Confucianism says about desire, but even when you look to like Christianity, there's this notion that desire is not good. Of course, it might depend on what kind of desire you're talking about, and I feel like that probably is an important point, because there could be some desires that are bad, and there could be some desires that are good, or healthy, you might say. But this book that I mentioned, this is one of the things that it talks about, is how desire is a good thing. That fulfilling the desires of your heart is the way to enlightenment, right? It's not shunning your desires, not saying, well, I know I want that, but I can't want anything, so I'm just going to forget about it. Oh, excuse me. And it even goes so far as to point out that even sometimes things that might seem like bad desires can have good consequences. It really was kind of like all about just kind of pursuing your natural inclinations in a way. Maybe that's not a good way for me to summarize the book. You might be better off reading it yourself. But I'm not even sure what to call the guy. Inayat Khan, Hazrat Inayat Khan, tells a story in the book about a highway robber who has a kind of like moment of midlife crisis or identity crisis or whatever, where he starts to think, you know what, maybe this isn't the right life. Maybe I need to get on a better path. And so he goes to a sage, and the sage looks at this man and he sees his potential. And or of course the guy asks the sage, like, what do I need to do to get my life on the right track? And the sage says, what you need to do is you need to take your highway robbery business and you need to beef it up. You need a few more men on your team. You need a few more horses and some more materials, or tools, whatever you guys use, weapons. And the guy's like, what? Yeah, no, that can't be right. And the sage is like, yeah, you need to beef up your operations. So the highway robber goes back to what he was doing, and then he beefs up his operation. He goes back to the sage a few months later, and the sage says, yeah, no, you're still not big enough yet. And so this goes on a couple more times. And then what ends up happening is the highway robber has accrued such a large operation. He has so many men working for him who are skilled at, ambushing people and attacking people, that he is able to overthrow the evil ruler of the country. There was this evil tyrant ruling the country, which was left out of the story in the beginning, right? But the sage saw that in this guy. He saw his potential to become this savior of the country, even though it meant encouraging his bad behavior, right? Or reinforcing his bad behavior. So I read that, and of course I thought, who knows how many times I've pruned my own potential. Maybe some part of me was kind of like a little shoot going off in one direction, and I said, no, that's not right. Maybe for example, dressing as a woman, right? I'm using my hands to talk, but you can't see my hands. My hands like way over here. But yeah, because this was something that I tried many years ago, and I just dropped it. But if I had pursued that back, say, 20 years ago, if I had said, well, there's something to this, I think I need to kind of dig deeper in this direction, I might be the first tranny president of the United States by now. or something like that. I mean, that might sound preposterous, but the point is, you never know, right? You don't. I don't know. It could have gone the other way too. I could have committed suicide or been killed or beat up or something like that back then. I don't think the world was quite the way it is now. This is 2024, when probably everyone in America at least now knows what transgender is, right? But yeah. So the what spurred this video though was working now as an assistant manager. I've already talked about this in another video, which I hope I uploaded. I do have quite a few videos on my phone that I believe I have not uploaded, but because a lot of times I'm recording these right before work, and then I record up until the last minute, and then I have to run to work, and then I forget about them. But what was I saying? What spurred this video is being an assistant manager at a discount retail store. I'm hesitant to say the name of the store in the video. And having this kind of reluctance to assert myself, you might say. I've had a few people push back, like if I tell them to do something, they kind of act like, no, I'm not listening to you. And I suspect that is partly from my own reluctance and partly from my own sending out this message that what I want just isn't important. You shouldn't take me seriously. Because I don't take my own self seriously, right? And that's partly, or in large part, if not entirely, due to me living my life as though what I wanted was not important. Having this idea that wanting things was just a cause of pain, right? Which wasn't just something that I read in Buddhist texts, but something that I experienced in my own life, that it's better just to not want anything, because you never want anything, you're never disappointed. Of course, the only problem with living that way is that you're perpetually disappointed. And I went through my life just kind of like, life is just never going to work out for me. It's just never going to work out. It's almost like I was just waiting for like some kind of ray of sunshine to just send a little like presence like onto my lap, right? And say, here's life. It's right here in this little present that just kind of came out of the sky. Instead of going through the trouble to go find what it is that I want, or maybe not find what I want, but just to go after what I want. Maybe there is something that I see that I want, and I'm just not going after it. And I think that to be in a leadership position where you've treated yourself that way, where you say to yourself, yeah, what you want just isn't important, then I think you're in a precarious position, because when you start telling people what to do, and they're getting the message from you that you shouldn't even take me seriously, I think that puts you in a bad position. So, not to be too down on myself, I like to think that I do speak with some amount of confidence and some amount of, you should take me seriously, but I can feel it sometimes. I can feel this kind of like, how's it going to come out in this? Sometimes I'm sometimes like, yeah, I hate it that time, and then others I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't quite get it that time. And there are times when I'm apprehensive when I go up to somebody and I'm like, I got to say it right. I got to say it in the right, I do. If you're thinking that I'm overthinking it, maybe, but even with this video, like, what is it that I want? What am I trying to do? I know I talk about this a lot in my videos. It comes up in some of my videos, trying to understand what it is that I'm actually trying to accomplish. Am I just trying to be famous? trying to get things off my chest? Is it a combination of both? Do I just want attention? Do I want somebody to pay attention to me and actually listen to what I say? Or, I think there is a good reason to do this, and that is there's at least one, I would say, selfless reason to do this. And that is just that I'm not doing the world any good by keeping all my thoughts in my head. That I feel like people were meant to share things. That you know, if everyone just lived their life in their head, the world would be a very heavy place, I think. Hi. Is this me attempting to connect with people? Am I looking for friends? Maybe. Uh, but I think also sometimes just as an artist, you just want to put things out. You have this kind of like, I have this something that I just feel like I want to talk about, and so you just talk about it, right? Maybe this is one of those things where it's like the highway robber. Maybe there is no, maybe I don't see any immediate benefit to this, but if I feel like doing it, why not do it? Uh, One of the things that I know that I want is I want to feel good. I'm tired of feeling bad. Uh, I'm tired of not liking myself or feeling like just walking into a place people aren't going to like me. I'm tired of feeling that way. Either they're not going to like me or they're just going to want me to leave or not want me around or whatever else. Because that is another issue at work. It does make work very painful, right? It doesn't even matter what other people say to me. Just going into work with this kind of fear that if I don't act in the right way or if I don't say things in the right way, uh, that if I'm too mean or too whatever, that people aren't going to want me around. Uh, and I am tired of that because it's been that way for almost all my entire life. I think the only time in my life when I wasn't that way was when I was in college back in 1994. And I was there with two guys who I felt like I got along with super well. Uh, and the only issue there was that I felt like I got along with them a little bit too well. Uh, One of them I was attracted to. Both of them flirted with me or came on to me, however you want to put it. And I was just like, yeah, I don't. Either I'm just not ready for that. I wasn't ready for that. I don't know, but I did get it into my head that like it's impossible for me to interact with men in a kind of intimate way and it not come up. Sex. Either they want sex with me or I want sex with them. Something like that. Uh, and because ever since I left college, that in that first trip, because I've been several times to college and never finished, but the first trip I came back from that feeling like I don't want to be close to men at all. Uh, and I don't like that. That's another one of those things that I'm tired of. I'm tired of feeling like I can't invite a guy over to my bus because he might think I want sex with him, or maybe I do want sex with him, or I think he might want sex with me, and I don't want sex with him, or whatever. Or maybe we both want sex, and neither one of us just we don't want to deal with that. Uh, a friend of mine suggested that I ask one of my coworkers out to go get coffee, or I think she said a beer, which I think would be even worse. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe coffee would be worse. Maybe that would seem too much like a date. To me, getting a beer always came across as like if a guy asked me to go get a beer with him, I'm thinking he wants sex with me. Uh, that's not a. I'm not doing that. uh, uh, excuse me. It's very ladylike, isn't it? I suppose if I had grown up female, maybe I would not do that. Maybe the reason I do that is because I grew up raised as a boy. I don't know. Maybe I should. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be rude or offensive. I certainly don't want to gross people out or step on anybody's toes or make things unpleasant for anyone. I don't want that. I don't want to be rejected over and over and over again. I don't want to have to grovel at people's feet. I'll say, please, 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 please accept me. Please, please, please accept me. But don't get too close because I don't want to be close. Because you just might want to touch me or put your penis inside my butt for some reason. Or maybe that's what I want. I'm not entirely sure. Is that the end of my video? Am I already done? It's 22 and a half minutes. 22, almost 23 minutes. Which is short for me, anyways. I feel like I should talk at least for an hour because that's about how long my therapy sessions were. An hour. Mm. But yeah, so this is one of the I am trying to get my life out of a hole, you might say at the moment. That living in the bus, I would say, is not necessarily a hole. Not necessarily. I would say that it is something that I never really aspired to do. But to me, it's better than living in an apartment and then just throwing my money down the toilet and never having any money to spend because it's all going towards rent. So right now, rent is about $1,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, and I make a little bit more than that at work. Uh, Not much more than that. Not even twice that. So, uh, so yeah. So I feel like this is better than living in an apartment in that sense, just the saving money sense. But I don't feel like I want to be here for the rest of my life, and I don't like being in situations like the job that I have now. When I do face any kind of negative feedback and I get the feelings like people don't want me around or whatever, I don't like feeling like there's nowhere else for me to go, because even if I go get another job somewhere else, it's going to be the same thing. right? I'm gonna have the same kind of like trying to fit in, trying to be accepted by people, trying to be, trying not to step on people's toes, but then coming across as too careful, too not wanting to assert myself, and that sort of things. Too desperate. Mm, or just not being able to get a job because nobody's hiring, you know, that sort of thing. Or ending up at a place that's even worse. I mean, there's a mattress place. I thought about this just earlier. There's a mattress place not right across the street from where I work, and I thought, if they were hiring, would I want to get a job there? Do I want to sell mattresses, or maybe they have somebody like who just works in the back room, changing the mattresses or bringing out the new ones, whatever. I don't know, but that's one of those where I'm like, yeah, I don't like feeling this kind of like there's just slim pickings, right? Like if I lose this job, I'm not sure where I would go. And a lot of that has to do with that fear of rejection, that feeling socially unacceptable, these sorts of things, feeling like a freak. Uh, I would say for trans, I'm not going to speak for all trans. My experience in this is that the hardest part is not social rejection, it's the fear of social rejection. It's walking into a room feeling like I might get laughed out of this place. You know, like I go to work and I feel like in some ways that's my place. Like I'm not gonna say that it's my property or I own it or whatever, but I kind of have that feeling that if a customer comes in, it's like you're on my territory, right? But yet I still have this feeling of like maybe they don't want me there. Maybe they have a problem just coming into the store because I'm there, right? Uh, I don't want that. What do I want? Do I want to work at the place that I'm working at? Not really. Why? One is that I don't make much money. Like I said, I don't even make twice what I would need to pay rent for an apartment. And in my experience, it's a good rule of thumb to make at least three times the cost of rent if you're going to rent. So that was something that I when I was staying in a project for homeless veterans, that was how they did it there. They didn't charge you the entire cost of rent. It was a government subsidized thing where it was income based. So they whatever your income was, they charged you 30% of your income. And I thought that to me is a good percentage. I think to pay for rent. If you're paying 80% of your income towards rent, to me that's just way too much. I don't think there is really a perfect percentage, but I kind of feel like living in the bus now, I would not move into an apartment if I wasn't making at least three times the cost of the apartment every month. Because it is wasting money. The money is just going down the toilet, and I am tired of wasting money. That's another one of the things that I'm tired of, and I want to. What I want is to not work and not get anything out of it. I mean, if I'm paying rent, you might say that I'm getting something out of it, but I'm not really moving my life in any direction that I want to go. But where is it that I want to go? I don't know. This is one of the this feeling that I have now, even where I work, is that this isn't getting me to where I want to go. even though I can't really articulate where it is that I want to go, I kind of feel I have this feeling like this isn't it. I don't. There are times when I think about just being a store manager at a place like this, just to have that kind of experience of being the one who's actually like the one on top, even though really a store manager at places like that isn't necessarily the one on top because they have someone on top of them. The only thing is they're never at the store, right? Almost never. So I feel like I want that experience, but even if I did have it, I kind of have this like that would just be a stepping stone to something else. Because I do have this feeling or this sense that this isn't this isn't it. And so I don't know. Maybe a lifetime of not going after what I want has left me a little bit blind to what it is that I do want. Like when I hear people say chase your dream, I've always been like, yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't have a dream. I don't have a there's no vision for me of what my life should be. I kind of have, but I do have this kind of like I know what it isn't. You know, when I'm in it, I feel like this isn't it. You know, I have a vague sense like when I watch political debates, I'm watching the United States or the people running for president of the United States debate on a stage. I feel like I've been too disengaged for too long. I don't know that I necessarily want to be a presidential candidate, but I feel like I've been too outside the. It's almost like this planet is like a an arena, and there's some kind of like battle going on inside the arena, some kind of gladiator battle, and I've just been kind of like not even in the stands, right? Just kind of up there, just kind of. Well, this is really nice architecture. Uh, so yeah, that's why I'm making this video. Is that I feel like I have, for too long, not given any importance to what I want. I have spent a lot of time thinking about what it is that I want, and I think sometimes I do overthink that, right? Because at least in the sense of there are some certain simple things that might seem obvious, but sometimes just saying them out loud almost feels like, well, how did I miss that? Right? Like, I want to feel good, right? That might sound obvious, but if I think about that and think about what it takes to feel good, what do I need to do to feel good, then I can hear somewhere in my head something says, you don't need to be drinking beer. You don't need to be doing drugs because that's not helping you get to where you feel like you feel good about yourself. You might feel good for a little bit, but you already know, you know, that once that wears off, you're going to be even worse than you were before. So this is one of the things that I actually say to myself now. Like when if I'm in and I get in that negative mind state at work or even outside of work, I just remind myself that feeling good is something that I want. That I am tired of not feeling good, right? I want to have good relationships with people. I want to make an amount of money that I feel like is reflective of my own potential. You know, $14 an hour or whatever it is I'm making now, I feel like that's just not reflective of my potential. I feel like, to some degree, people associate the amount of their income kind of with their value as a human being. I hate to put it that way, but I think it's generally assumed that doctors get paid more because they're more valuable to society than, say, someone who flips burgers. So the doctor is more valuable to society, but does that mean the human who is performing the act of doctor is more valuable? I think even if people wouldn't say that out loud, I think somewhere inside their head they think that. So am I trying to say that I'm better than other people? And I think I should be getting paid more because I'm better than other people. Uh, no, I don't. I think that I think I'm better than the job. I'll put it that way. Uh, I'm better than lifting boxes in a warehouse all day long. I'm better than organizing items on a shelf and trying to make them look all straight and neat. And I don't mean that I'm too good for that. That like I refuse to do it. I've been doing it for a while now, right? Uh, but it would be nice for once in my life to feel like I'm doing a job that is, I feel like is me kind of reaching the limit of my own potential, if not going beyond the limit of what I see as the limit of my own potential. Being an assistant manager is in some ways doing that. When I took the job as an assistant manager, there was a part of me that thought, I can't do that. I can't do it. So there's a part of me that wants that job for that reason. And now, even now, though, I'm still kind of not convinced that I can do it, especially in the environment that I'm in. Uh, I'm not going to go into that. Certainly, one of the things that I want is not to feel shameful about being trans for the rest of my life. Uh, I certainly don't want to feel like I'm a burden on society for the rest of my life, or to feel like I'm a burden to even just people that I know. So those might sound like simple things, but it might it might sound surprising, maybe, to say that for years I couldn't even, when I was thinking about what I wanted, I just totally overlooked those sorts of things and was like more focused on like specific jobs, like do I want to be a geologist or an astronomer? Kind of, those were never really things that I thought about, but that was just that kind of level of specificity was the sort of thing that I would get stuck on. Uh, there were, of course, other more substantial things like do I want a wife and kids, that sort of thing. I still don't know the answer to that one. I still have doubts about that. Uh, that is partly because the most enlightened people that I've met in my life have all been single. Uh, the people who I when I think about like who's given me the guidance that I feel like is the most life changing stuff, or just been the biggest influences in my own life. They all happen to be single. So some of them did have kids. Two of them, there are four people that I'm thinking of. Two of them had kids. Uh, those two were women and who had kids. The other two were men who never had kids. So I don't know if that means anything. Uh, mm, yeah. I feel like I've squeezed that bag of cake icing completely empty. Hopefully I made a delicious cake.